The galaxy burned at its edges. Ambassador Lyra Winters watched the holographic display flicker and die, showing the 23rd world consumed in 6 months. She sat among 47 alien species in the Grand Chamber, a crystalline structure that orbited Concordia, a neutral world where wars were supposed to end, not begin. Chancellor Rin of the Avari spread his colorful wings, a gesture of deep concern among his bird-like people. His voice carried the weight of 10,000 years of civilization. We face extinction. The devourers show no mercy, accept no communication, understand no surrender. They simply consume. The chamber fell silent. Lyra had read the reports. Entire populations stripped away like leaves in a storm. Oceans drained. Atmospheres harvested. Worlds left as barren rocks spinning in the void. The devourers moved through space like locusts and nothing stopped them. Commander Drell of the Krell Dominion slammed his armored fist against his seat. The reptilian warrior had lost his entire Third Fleet in a battle that lasted 4 minutes. We need soldiers. We need numbers. The humans have 11 billion people on their world. Lyra felt every eye turn toward her. Earth had joined the Galactic Council only 15 years ago as observers. Humans brought no advanced technology, no powerful weapons, no faster-than-light engines that could match Council standards. They were the newcomers, the primitives, the species that still fought wars on their own planet. "You want our soldiers." Lyra stood, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "You've studied our history, you know what we are." Chancellor Rin nodded slowly. "We know about your world wars, your conflicts in Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. We know humans understand warfare in ways we do not." "You understand warfare," Lyra said. "You understand honor, formation, strategy. We understand survival. There is a difference." A Lumini representative, glowing with soft inner light, floated forward. "We cannot read their minds. The devourers have no thoughts we recognize, only hunger, only emptiness. Our psychic abilities mean nothing against them." "And our technology fails," added an Avari strategist. "Our computational models predict their movements, but they adapt, they learn, they overcome." Lyra walked to the center of the chamber. The holographic display showed Earth, a small blue world in a quiet corner of the galaxy. "If we join this war, you need to understand what you're asking. Humans don't fight like you do. We don't have honor codes that limit our weapons. We don't have traditions that dictate our tactics." "We are desperate," Chancellor Rin said softly. "In 2 years, the devourers will reach our core worlds. Populations in the trillions will die. We need humanity's help." "Then you need to accept our methods," Lyra replied. "When humans fight, we fight to win, not to prove ourselves, not to test our courage. We fight to eliminate the threat completely." The Krell commander laughed, a harsh sound. "You think your primitive weapons can succeed where our fleets have failed?" "Our weapons aren't primitive," Lyra said. "They're practical. We learned to fight on a world that tried to kill us every day. Predators, diseases, ice ages, droughts. Earth made us survivors before we became warriors." She pulled up images of human history. Battles fought in jungles, deserts, mountains, cities. Soldiers who learned to use terrain as a weapon. Fighters who turned their own infrastructure into traps. Warriors who understood that victory mattered more than glory. "We can teach your people to survive," Lyra continued. "But once you open that door, you cannot control what comes through. Human warfare is total. We will sacrifice cities to save worlds. We will use weapons you consider barbaric. We will fight in ways that disturb you." Chancellor Rin's feathers ruffled, a sign of deep thought among the Avari. "We vote in 1 hour. The motion is simple. Invite humanity to join the war effort as full military partners." Lyra returned to her seat. Around her, species whispered in their various languages. Some showed fear. Others displayed hope. A few revealed disgust at the thought of learning from primitives. The vote came quickly. 41 species voted yes. 6 voted no. The motion passed. I need 72 hours to consult with Earth's United Defense Coalition, Lyra said. This decision affects every human alive. You have 48 hours, Chancellor Rin replied. The Devourers do not wait for our deliberations. Lyra left the chamber and walked to the communication suite. She initiated a quantum link to Earth, watching the connection establish across light years of space. General Victor Hayes appeared on the screen, his silver hair and stern expression unchanged since she had last seen him. They voted yes, Lyra said without greeting. They want our help. Do they understand what that means? Hayes asked. No, they think they do, but they don't. They see our history and think we're just better soldiers. They don't realize we're something else entirely. Hayes nodded slowly. We'll need to send advisors, not armies. We can't fight their war for them, but we can teach them to fight like us. They won't like our methods. They don't have to like them, Hayes said. They just have to survive. Lyra ended the call and stood at the window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere in that vast darkness, the Devourers moved toward the next world, the next meal, the next extinction. And humanity was about to show the galaxy what it meant to fight back against the void. She thought about Earth, about the billions of people who would soon learn their planet had joined an alien war. She thought about the soldiers who would volunteer, knowing they might never come home. She thought about the methods they would use, the tactics that would shock their allies as much as their enemies. The Galactic Council wanted humanity's help. They were about to get exactly what they asked for, and Lyra suspected they would regret it long before the war ended. The secure bunker beneath Geneva held representatives from every military tradition Earth had ever produced. General Victor Hayes studied the faces around the curved table. Russian veterans who remembered Stalingrad, Chinese strategists who had mastered Sun Tzu, Israeli special forces who turned deserts into fortresses, Nigerian commandos who knew jungle warfare better than anyone alive. The Galactic Council expects us to send millions of soldiers, Hayes began, pulling up the holographic display. They want us to fill their front lines with human bodies. Colonel Amara Okonkwo from Nigerian Special Forces leaned forward. How many worlds have the Devourers taken? 23 confirmed, populations totaling 42 billion. Hayes let that number sink in. The Council fights with honor. They use formation tactics. They rely on superior technology, and they're losing badly. Admiral Boris Volkov, a submarine commander who spent 30 years hunting enemies in Earth's oceans, shook his head. Superior technology means nothing if your enemy doesn't fight by your rules. Exactly, Hayes said. The Council species evolved on gentle worlds. Most of them had no predators. They developed intelligence without developing the survival instinct that drove humanity. Wing Commander Priya Sharma pulled up tactical data on the Devourers. These bioships are impressive. Organic armor, adaptive weapons, hive-mind coordination. But they're predictable. They land, they spread, they consume. Same pattern on every world. Then we break the pattern, Okonkwo said. We teach the Council species to fight dirty. Hayes nodded. We're not sending millions of soldiers. We're sending 50,000 advisors, trainers, and specialists. Our goal isn't to fight the Devourers ourselves. Our goal is to teach every species in the galaxy how to make themselves too expensive to consume. The room erupted with questions. Hayes raised his hand for silence. Here's the situation. The Council fights conventionally because that's all they know. They meet the enemy in open battle. They try to outshoot them. They lose. Hayes pulled up footage from the Battle of Krell Prime. Massive fleets firing energy weapons at each other while Devourer bioships simply absorbed the damage and kept coming. We're going to teach them guerrilla warfare, urban combat, psychological operations, and asymmetric tactics. Everything humans learned from thousands of years of fighting on a world that tried to kill us. They won't accept it, Volkov said. The Krell commander already called our methods primitive. He'll change his mind when he sees the results, Hayes replied. Admiral, I want you to develop naval tactics adapted for space combat. Submarines hunt by hiding and striking from unexpected angles. We'll teach the Council fleets to do the same. Wing Commander Sharma, you'll handle drone warfare. Cheap, disposable, overwhelming numbers. The Devourers use quantity against quality. We'll flip that against them. Colonel Okonkwo, you're leading the ground forces training program. Pick your best instructors. They need to teach alien species how to turn their own worlds into weapons. Okonkwo smiled. Where do we start? Velis 4. Garden world, 2 billion inhabitants, peaceful herbivore species called Pelions. They've never fought a war in their entire history. Devourer scouts will reach them in 30 days. Hayes pulled up images of the Pelions. Tall, graceful beings with soft fur and large eyes. They looked like they belonged in a children's story, not a war zone. 30 days to turn pacifists into soldiers, Sharma asked. 30 days to teach them to survive, Hayes corrected. We're not making them warriors. We're making them understand that survival requires ugliness. The planning session lasted 18 hours. They developed training protocols, identified key personnel, and created supply chains for equipment. Hayes insisted on one critical rule. Humans would have complete tactical autonomy, no council oversight, no interference from species who thought they knew better. Lyra's face appeared on the communication screen. She looked exhausted. General, the council is getting impatient. They want our response. Tell them we accept under our terms. We send advisors, not armies. We train their people to fight like humans, and we have complete operational control of any mission we undertake. They won't like those terms. They don't have to like them. They just have to accept them or face the Devourers alone. Lyra smiled grimly. I'll deliver the message. Hayes turned back to his officers. Colonel Daniel Cross, you're taking the first team to Velis 4, 500 of our best trainers. You have 30 days to prepare those people for hell. Cross stood at attention. What if they refuse to learn? Then they die, and we move to the next world. But make them understand one thing. The Devourers don't care about their peaceful culture. They don't care about their art or their philosophy or their gentle traditions. They only care about consumption. Show them what happens when nice species meet hungry ones, Okonkwo added. Earth survived because we learned to be meaner than anything that hunted us. Hayes pulled up one final image. Earth from space, beautiful and blue, covered in clouds and oceans. This is what the Devourers want. Every world in the galaxy stripped clean, every species extinct, every trace of civilization erased. The Council thinks we're barbaric because we fight without honor. They're about to learn that honor is a luxury. Survival is a necessity. The meeting ended. Officers dispersed to prepare their teams. Hayes remained alone in the bunker, staring at the tactical displays. The Devourers had consumed 23 worlds. They moved through space like a plague, unstoppable and merciless. But they had never encountered humanity. They had never faced a species that crawled out of the mud, survived ice ages, conquered predators, and turned a death world into home. The Devourers were about to learn what happened when you threatened survivors who had nothing left to lose. Hayes closed the tactical display and headed for the surface. Somewhere above, stars turned in the void, and among those stars, 50,000 human advisors prepared to teach the galaxy a lesson in survival. Velis 4 looked like paradise. Purple forests stretched across continents. Crystal towers rose from golden cities. Water flowed clean and pure through channels designed by artists, not engineers. Colonel Daniel Cross stepped off the transport ship and immediately felt wrong about everything he saw. Beauty made terrible battlegrounds. The Pelions gathered in the central plaza to meet their human advisors. 2,000 volunteers stood in neat rows, their soft golden fur catching the sunlight. They wore ceremonial robes, not armor. They carried data tablets, not weapons. They looked at Cross and his 500 trainers with curiosity, not fear. "We are honored to learn from the human warriors," the Pelion leader said. Her name was Myra, and she spoke with the gentle voice of someone who had never screamed in terror. "We understand you will teach us to defend our world." Cross looked at his chronometer. 28 days until Devourer scouts arrived. 28 days to break everything these people believed about the universe. "Where are your weapons?" he asked. Myra gestured to a nearby building. "We have stun devices for peacekeeping. They render individuals unconscious without permanent harm." "Useless." Cross turned to his second-in-command. "Lieutenant Wright, demo package." Wright pulled out a small cube and placed it on the plaza's beautiful mosaic floor. The Pelions leaned closer, curious. Cross pressed the detonator. The cube exploded, shattering stone and sending debris flying. The Pelions stumbled backward, crying out in shock. "That's what's coming," Cross said into the sudden silence. "But much worse, much bigger, and it won't stop until everything you love is dust." Myra's large eyes filled with tears. "This is violence, this is destruction. We do not practice such things." "I know. That's why you're going to die unless you learn fast." Cross pulled up holographic footage from Devourer attacks. Pelions gasped as they watched worlds consumed, populations fleeing, bioships landing and releasing millions of insectoid drones that stripped everything organic down to bedrock. "Your stun weapons won't work on them. Your peacekeeping tactics won't slow them down. Your belief in nonviolence means nothing to an enemy that only understands hunger." Cross let the footage play. Let them see the truth. A young Pelion named Sura stepped forward. "What must we do?" "Forget everything you know about conflict resolution. Forget meditation and consensus. Forget your beautiful city and your peaceful traditions. For the next 28 days, you belong to Earth, and Earth is going to teach you to survive." Master Sergeant Lisa Chen took the first group to the outskirts of the city. She had fought in urban environments across Earth, from Manila to Lagos to Rio. She understood that cities could be weapons if you knew how to use them. "Your buildings are too pretty," she told the confused Pelions. "Pretty buildings make bad fortresses. We're going to fix that." Over the next week, Chen's teams taught the Pelions to think differently about their world. That beautiful crystal tower, demolish the lower floors and turn it into a sniper position. Those artistic water channels, flood them with chemicals and create kill zones. The underground transit system, perfect for ambush tunnels. The Pelions resisted at first. Each destroyed monument brought protests. Each modified building caused arguments. But Chen showed them more footage, more worlds consumed, more species extinct. "Your enemy doesn't care about beauty," she repeated endlessly. "Your enemy only cares about eating." Lieutenant Wright handled the engineering projects. He taught Pelions to weaponize their own infrastructure. Agricultural equipment became improvised armor. Chemical plants were rigged to release toxic clouds. The gardens surrounding the city, carefully maintained for 3,000 years, were mined and turned into explosive barriers. "This feels wrong," Sura said as he helped plant explosives beneath flower beds. "It is wrong," Wright agreed. "But it's necessary. We're not asking you to like this. We're asking you to survive." Cross watched the transformation from the command center. The Pelions learned quickly once they accepted the reality. Their gentle nature became an advantage in unexpected ways. They memorized tactical positions with perfect recall. They coordinated movements with natural grace. They understood the city's layout better than any human could. But they struggled with the mental shift. Violence went against their entire culture. On day 15, Cross ordered a live fire exercise. The Pelions had to attack a mock devourer position using human weapons and tactics. They hesitated. They took cover when they should have advanced. They tried to minimize damage when they should have maximized it. Cross stopped the exercise. This isn't working, you're still thinking like prey. We are not warriors, Myra said quietly. We are artists, philosophers, teachers. How do we become killers in 13 days? You don't become killers, Cross said. You become survivors. There's a difference. Killers enjoy violence. Survivors do what's necessary to protect what they love. He pulled up images of Earth, showed them human cities, human families, human children playing in parks. My planet tried to kill us every day. Ice ages, droughts, predators, diseases. We survived because we learned one simple rule: adapt or die. The devourers are coming. They will land in your beautiful city. They will consume your people. They will destroy everything you've built over thousands of years, unless you adapt. Sura raised his hand. What did Earth teach you that we need to learn most? Cross thought about that. Earth taught us that the universe doesn't care about fairness. The universe doesn't reward the peaceful or punish the violent. The universe simply exists, and in that existence, only survivors remain. The Pelions returned to training with new intensity. They stopped protesting the destruction of their monuments. They stopped arguing about the ethics of explosive traps. They learned to shoot without hesitation, to ambush without mercy, to fight from positions that gave them every advantage. On day 28, Devourer scouts entered the system. Cross stood with Myra on the city's highest tower, watching the 3 bioships descend through the atmosphere. "We're ready," Myra said, though her voice trembled. "No, you're not," Cross replied honestly. "But you're as ready as you can be in 28 days. Now we find out if that's enough." The 3 bioships landed like falling mountains. Each vessel stretched half a kilometer long, organic and pulsing, covered in chitinous armor that looked like infected skin. Ramps extended and the drones poured out. Cross watched from 3 kilometers away as thousands of insectoid creatures filled the central plaza. 6 feet tall, 4 legs, 2 blade arms, mandibles dripping acid. They moved in perfect coordination, the hive mind directing every action. "They're in the kill zone," Lieutenant Wright reported. "All charges armed." The city was empty. Every Pelion had evacuated to the surrounding forests exactly as planned. The beautiful crystal tower stood silent. The artistic fountain still flowed. The garden still bloomed. Everything looked normal, peaceful, inviting. The devourers spread through the streets, searching for prey. They entered buildings, explored tunnels, investigated the underground transit system. 30,000 drones packed into the city center, exactly where Cross wanted them. "Blow it," he said quietly. Wright pressed the detonator. The underground explosives fired simultaneously. Every tunnel, every basement, every foundation charge detonated in a synchronized wave. The entire city center collapsed inward, folding like paper. Crystal towers fell. Transit tunnels imploded. The beautiful plaza cracked and dropped 50 meters down. 30,000 Devourer drones vanished into the crater, buried under millions of tons of rubble. The 3 bioships tried to lift off, but Pelion teams fired improvised surface-to-air missiles, rockets cobbled together from mining equipment and chemical propellants. The missiles weren't sophisticated, but they didn't need to be. They just needed to explode. The first bioship took 3 hits and crashed back down, crushing more drones. The second managed to rise 50 meters before a missile struck its engines. It tilted, fell sideways, and smashed into the crater. The third bioship nearly escaped, but Sura's team had saved their best shot. A chemical warhead designed to dissolve organic matter hit the ship's underbelly. The bioship screamed, an awful sound like dying whales, and plummeted into the ruins. Phase 2, Cross ordered. Pelion fighters emerged from the forests, not in neat formations, not in organized ranks, in small, mobile teams exactly as Chen had taught them. They surrounded the crater and fired into the surviving drones trying to climb out. The Devourers fought back. They always did, but they were confused, disoriented. Their hive mind couldn't process the trap. No species had ever sacrificed their own city before. No species had ever turned their home into a weapon. Sura's team moved through the rubble, hunting isolated drones. They didn't fight with honor. They shot from hiding. They used poison gas in enclosed spaces. They collapsed weakened structures onto groups of enemies. Everything humans had taught them about making the environment hostile. A group of drones tried to regroup near the fallen bioships. Chen's team had prepared for that. Chemical plants on the city's edge released clouds of toxic vapor, gases that burned organic tissue. The drones retreated into buildings, seeking shelter. The buildings collapsed on command, crushing them. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the beautiful capital city of Velis IV no longer existed. In its place lay a smoking crater filled with devourer corpses and shattered architecture. But the Pelions had won. Cross walked through the aftermath with Myra. Bodies lay everywhere. Mostly devourer drones, but some Pelions too. 2,300 dead, volunteers who refused to evacuate, civilians who thought they could reason with the enemy, fighters who made mistakes in combat. "We destroyed our greatest city," Myra said, staring at the ruins. 3,000 years of culture gone in 6 hours. "You can rebuild cities," Cross replied. "You can't rebuild extinct species." Chancellor Rin arrived from orbit with a delegation of council observers. They had watched the battle through satellites. The Avari leader stood at the crater's edge, his colorful feathers ruffled in shock. "This is not warfare," the Krell commander growled. "This is extermination." "This is survival," Cross corrected. "You wanted to know how humans fight, now you know." Rin pulled up battle statistics. 47-to-1 kill ratio. You lost 2,300 defenders and eliminated 108,000 devourer drones plus 3 capital ships. This is the first major devourer defeat in the entire war. "It won't be the last," Cross said, "but only if you're willing to fight like this. No formations, no honor, no rules except survival." The Krell commander turned away in disgust. "We are warriors, not butchers." "Then you'll lose," Cross told his back. "The devourers don't care about your warrior code. They don't care about honor or tradition. They care about eating. And if you're not willing to be uglier than your enemy, you'll be their next meal." Sura approached, covered in ash and blood. The young Pelion looked different now. Harder, older. He had killed dozens of drones personally, fought for hours without rest, watched friends die beside him. "We won," Sura said. "You survived," Cross corrected. "Winning comes later when the devourers stop coming entirely." News of the victory spread across the council networks. Species who had lost dozens of worlds suddenly saw hope. The humans had done the impossible. They had stopped the devourers. They had proven the hive mind could be defeated. But the devourers learned too. Deep in consumed space, the hive mind processed the battle data. They had encountered thousands of species. They had consumed hundreds of civilizations. None had fought like this. The hive mind identified the source: humans. These primitives from the death world had taught the prey to fight back. They had introduced tactics the hive mind couldn't predict. They had turned defense into offense. The hive mind made a decision. 50 bioships were redirected from their current targets. New coordinates were calculated. A new world marked for priority consumption. Earth. Cross received the intelligence report 3 days after the battle. He read it twice, then called General Hayes. "They're coming for us," Cross said. 50 ships, full invasion fleet." Hayes didn't sound surprised. "How long?" 60 days. "Then we have 60 days to show them why you don't attack a death world." Hayes paused. "Bring your team home, Colonel. Earth needs every soldier." Cross looked at the Pelions rebuilding around the crater. They had learned to survive. Now humans had to prove they could do the same when the enemy came home. Earth had 60 days to prepare for annihilation. General Hayes stood before the United Nations Security Council and delivered the news without softening the blow. 50 Devourer bioships are coming. That's 10 times the force that attacked Velis 4. They will arrive in 2 months. They will attempt to consume our entire planet. The council chamber erupted. Delegates shouted questions, demanded solutions, called for evacuation plans. Hayes waited for silence. There will be no evacuation. There is nowhere to evacuate to. The council worlds can barely defend themselves. Earth stands alone. Then we surrender, the French delegate said. We negotiate. We offer them something else. They don't negotiate, Hayes replied. They don't want our resources or our territory. They want to eat us, all 11 billion of us, and then they'll strip our planet bare and move on. He pulled up projections, mathematical models showing devourer consumption patterns. Earth would be attacked from multiple points. Bioships would land on every continent. Drones would spread like infection, consuming everything organic. Within 6 months, Earth would be a barren rock. Our only chance is to make Earth too expensive to eat, Hayes continued. We turn our entire planet into a weapon. Every ocean, every forest, every city becomes a battlefield where we have the advantage. How? The Chinese delegate asked. They outnumber us. They have superior technology. They have superior space technology, Hayes corrected. But they've never fought on a death world before. Earth has been trying to kill humans for 200,000 years. We know how to use this planet against our enemies. Colonel Okonkwo stepped forward with tactical displays. We've divided Earth into defensive zones. Each zone has specific terrain advantages: jungles, deserts, mountains, oceans, cities. The Devourers fight the same way everywhere. We'll fight differently in each environment. Admiral Volkov added his strategy. Our naval forces will use submarine tactics: hide, strike, disappear. The Devourers hunt by biosignature. Our submarines can stay submerged for months. We'll turn the oceans into ambush zones. Wing Commander Sharma presented drone warfare plans. We're manufacturing 10 million autonomous combat drones. Cheap, disposable, controlled by AI. We'll overwhelm their bioships with numbers. For every drone they destroy, we build 10 more. Hayes revealed the final element. We're deploying weapons the Council banned 3,000 years ago. Nuclear, chemical, biological. Everything we promised never to use again. The Council calls these weapons barbaric. We call them survival tools. The German delegate stood. You're talking about poisoning our own planet, rendering entire regions uninhabitable. Better uninhabitable than consumed, Hayes said. We can clean up radiation. We can neutralize chemicals. We can't bring back 11 billion dead people. Lyra watched the presentation from the observation gallery. She had returned from the council to witness Earth's preparation. What she saw terrified and impressed her equally. Every nation contributed. Russian engineers designed chemical weapons from their deadliest stockpiles. American military deployed orbital kinetic bombardment satellites. Chinese factories produced drone swarms by the millions. Israeli special forces trained civilian resistance groups. Brazilian rainforest fighters prepared jungle ambush zones. Australian forces weaponized their continent's naturally hostile wildlife. Earth's biosphere joined the fight in unexpected ways. Scientists identified bacteria that could infect devourer organic technology, viruses that targeted hive mind communication, fungi that dissolved chitinous armor. Earth's evolution had created millions of deadly organisms. Humans learned to deploy them as weapons. Dr. Rachel Foster, a psychologist, developed the most disturbing strategy. We'll broadcast our entire history to the hive mind. Every war, every genocide, every act of human violence across 10,000 years. We want them to understand what they're attacking. Will that stop them? Lyra asked. No, but it might make them afraid. Fear causes mistakes. Mistakes create opportunities. The broadcast began on day 30. Humanity's darkest moments transmitted into space. The world wars, the atomic bombs, the concentration camps, the ethnic cleansings, the torture chambers, the slavery, the massacres. Everything humans had ever done to each other sent as a warning to the devourers. Chancellor Rin watched the broadcast from Concordia. He felt sick. The council had always known humans were violent, but this was different. This was systematic documentation of cruelty, presented not as shame but as deterrent. "They're monsters," the Krell commander said. "They're survivors," Rin replied quietly, "and perhaps that's worse." On Earth, civilians trained for combat. Children learned to identify devourer biosignatures. Elderly citizens manned communication posts. Everyone had a role. Everyone understood the stakes. Cities were rigged with demolition charges. If the devourers landed in Tokyo, the entire city could be collapsed into rubble within minutes. If they approached Moscow, the metro system would flood with nerve gas. If they targeted Rio, the favelas would become vertical kill zones where every alley meant death. Forests were mined. Deserts were salted with biological weapons. Mountains held artillery positions with fields of fire calculated to the meter. Every environment became hostile. The oceans received special attention. Admiral Volkov deployed submarine fleets with nuclear torpedoes. They'll detect our surface ships easily, but submarines are invisible until they strike. Day 60 arrived. Global defense networks went active. Orbital satellites armed. Ground forces deployed to predetermined positions. Civilian populations evacuated to underground shelters built in 6 weeks of frantic construction. Lyra stood with General Hayes in the command bunker beneath Geneva. Screens showed Earth from every angle. Beautiful blue oceans, green continents, white clouds, the most precious planet in human experience. "They're here," a technician announced. 50 bioships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Massive organic vessels, each one capable of consuming a city in days. They moved toward Earth in formation, confident and unstoppable. Hayes activated the global communication network. His voice reached every human on the planet, underground in shelters, manning weapons, waiting for the battle to begin. "The devourers chose to come to our home. They made a mistake. This isn't some garden world where prey evolved without predators. This is Earth. This is the death world that made us what we are. And today, we remind the galaxy why you don't hunt humans on their own territory." The bioships entered Earth's orbit. The battle for humanity's survival began. The first 3 bioships died before reaching Earth's atmosphere. Kinetic bombardment satellites released tungsten rods traveling at orbital velocity. The rods punched through organic armor like bullets through paper. 3 ships exploded, debris burning up on re-entry. The remaining 47 ships adjusted. They spread out, approaching from multiple angles, exactly as Hayes predicted, exactly as humans wanted. Nuclear-tipped missiles launched from submarines hidden in the Mariana Trench. The bioships detected the launches and deployed countermeasures. Most missiles were destroyed. 5 got through. 5 nuclear explosions in low orbit. 4 more bioships ceased functioning, their organic systems fried by electromagnetic pulses. 43 ships reached the surface. They landed on every continent. North America took 7 ships, Europe 5, Asia 12, South America 4, Africa 8, Australia 7, Antarctica none because even the devourers avoided that frozen wasteland. Millions of drones poured from the bioships. They spread across the landscape searching for prey. They found empty cities, abandoned farms, silent factories. Humans had evacuated everything, leaving the surface apparently defenseless. In the Amazon, devourer drones entered the jungle and died screaming. Earth's ecosystem fought back. Jaguars attacked from trees. Poison dart frogs secreted toxins that melted chitin. Clouds of flesh-eating insects descended on the drones. The devourers consumed some creatures, but many carried bioweapons designed to poison the hive mind's organic systems. Brazilian special forces watched from hidden positions as drones thrashed and died from natural causes. When the drones weakened, soldiers emerged for quick strikes, then vanished back into the jungle. Hit and run, ambush and fade, guerrilla warfare perfected over centuries. In the Sahara, Colonel Okonkwo led combined African forces against a bioship that landed in the desert. The devourers expected easy advancement across open terrain. Instead, they found sandstorms that stripped their sensors, extreme heat that exhausted their organic cooling systems, solar radiation stronger than most worlds, degrading their armor. Hidden beneath the sand, artillery positions opened fire, not with conventional shells but with biological weapons, viruses cultivated in Earth's deadliest laboratories, bacteria that consumed organic matter. The drones started dissolving from the inside. When the bioship tried to lift off, surface-to-air missiles struck its engines. The massive vessel crashed back down. Okonkwo's forces surrounded it and pumped nerve gas into its interior. The ship died slowly, all biological systems failing. In Moscow, devourer drones entered the metro system, pursuing what they thought were fleeing civilians. Admiral Volkov triggered the trap. The metro flooded with chemical weapons, liquids that burned through chitin faster than acid. 10,000 drones dissolved in the tunnels beneath the city. Tokyo's skyscrapers became vertical ambush zones. Drones climbed buildings hunting humans. When they reached predetermined floors, Wing Commander Sharma detonated charges. Buildings collapsed strategically, falling inward to minimize damage to surrounding structures. Thousands of drones were crushed. Australia deployed its most disturbing weapon, the continent's natural ecosystem modified for war. Scientists had bred aggressive versions of the deadliest snakes, spiders, and jellyfish. These creatures were released in waves against the drones. Each bite, each sting carried neurotoxins designed to shut down devourer nervous systems. The hive mind struggled to adapt. Every tactic it tried, humans countered. Every environment it entered became hostile. This wasn't warfare as the devourers understood it. This was total planetary defense where the entire world fought as one organism. On day 15, General Hayes authorized the nuclear option. Devourer forces had massed in remote regions to regroup. Tactical nuclear weapons struck 12 locations simultaneously. Humans sacrificed their own territory to eliminate the concentrations. Radiation would linger for decades, but the devourers couldn't consume irradiated biomass. The psychological warfare worked better than expected. Dr. Foster's broadcasts flooded the hive mind with human violence. The devourers had never encountered fear before. Their collective consciousness began experiencing something new: doubt. They had consumed 200 worlds. They had eliminated hundreds of species, but none had fought like this. None had poisoned their own planet. None had turned their entire biosphere into a weapon. The hive mind started making mistakes. It pulled back when it should have advanced. It hesitated when it should have attacked. Doubt created gaps. Gaps became opportunities. Humans exploited every opening. 30 days into the invasion, 20 bioships remained functional. The others were destroyed or disabled. Devourer casualties exceeded 90% of landing forces. Human casualties reached 400 million dead, mostly from the initial landings and nuclear strikes. The hive mind made its final calculation. Earth was too expensive. The resources required to consume this world exceeded the resources gained. For the first time in devourer history, they chose retreat over consumption. The remaining bioships lifted off. Human forces fired everything remaining: missiles, railguns, orbital weapons. 8 more ships died during escape. 12 made it to space and jumped away. Silence fell across Earth. Cities burned, forests smoldered, radiation zones glowed, 400 million graves needed digging, but 11 billion humans survived. Chancellor Rin landed in London 3 days after the retreat. He walked through ruins with Lyra, seeing human survivors already rebuilding. A child, no older than 10, approached them. "Are the monsters gone?" the child asked. Rin knelt to the child's level. "Yes, the monsters are gone." The child nodded and ran back to help clear rubble. Rin stood slowly, understanding the truth. To this child, the Devourers were just another threat, just another challenge Earth threw at humanity, just another day on the Death World. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. Species who had lost dozens of worlds sat in shocked silence as Earth's battle reports played. The primitives had won. The newcomers had achieved what no council species could manage. Resolution 7749 passed unanimously. Official title: The Human Accord and Protective Regulations. Unofficial title: Never again drag humans into war. Humans received full council membership, permanent security status, control over military training programs, but more importantly, the galaxy learned what happened when you threatened a Deathworld species. Lyra addressed the council one final time. "You asked us to fight your war. We did. We won. We paid the price in blood. But understand this, we didn't fight like you because we're barbaric. We fought like ourselves because we're survivors. Earth made us this way. Every predator, every plague, every disaster taught us to adapt or die. You wanted warriors. You got survivors. Remember the difference." The Devourers never approached council space again. Word spread through the hive mind. Avoid the blue world. Avoid the species that poisoned their own planet to survive. Avoid the Deathworld humans. Earth rebuilt. Radiation zones were cleaned slowly. Cities rose from ashes. The dead were mourned. Life continued because that's what survivors do. They endure, they adapt, they overcome. And across the galaxy, every species learned the same lesson. Never drag humans into war, because humans don't fight wars. They fight for survival, and they'll burn everything down before they lose.